Alright, so I know this video is a bit longer than usual. I usually don't like making, greater than 20-minute videos because people tend to only watch like 1/10 of it. But I decided to leave a lot of my in the moment decision making in this video. I did a lot more live recordings. I broke down my decision making, and I think there's a lot of value in that. I think this turned out to be one of my favorite episodes of the series so far. If you like this style of video for this series instead of the at the end of the week recaps, leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. And other than that, on to the video. Alright, so it's Thursday the 28th. It's the day after I recorded my last update to the TCQ series. I want to go over my plans a little bit and kind of the overall context I'm looking at. So Bitcoin right now is attempting to reclaim some important resistance following the sweep of the range low. We're trying to break back into the range. So far, we did get above my first resistance box, but the move above it was not very convincing, and at this point I may actually be looking for a short if we really start losing VWAP here. I do think there is some support lower that I can target. We front ran this area with these wicks over here. After this zone, there is one more very significant resistance area that I'm watching. It's going to be this area that lines up with the value area low of the range. But the fact that we are starting to see weakness here with divergences as we're SFPing the high, this is starting to appear like a bearish range, and we are starting to lose the low of the range again. So if we start closing significantly below it, and we come back up to backtest VWAP, I'll definitely be looking for short trades to try and drive this down to some lower supports and try and get a better long trade down here. I'm pretty much going to be around all day. I am working today, but I'm at work. So anytime I get an alert on my phone, I can run back in here and get on the computer. So hopefully I don't miss any trades, and I got my alerts set. So yeah, now I just got to play the waiting game. Alright, so I did enter a short here. We lost VWAP. I like the 15-minute close down below VWAP. We were initially getting SFPs, and then we got a nice strong close. We retraced, and I saw some local bearish confirmation. So I entered with, a little bit of a loose stop. I want to have VWAP as my invalidation. That will change if and when we come down to lose this low. If we actually get a nice close below this low, I will move my stop loss down, de-risk this a little bit. It is a 1% risk, so I'm risking about $5.50 on it. And here's my position. And my target, again, is mostly going to be this zone down here. I want to take out these lows. We have equal lows, but I did find some support prior to that area, so I do have to watch that. I do have alerts set there. And ideally, I can hit a TP around this low or in this box, close, either half or 75% of the trade. I want to take a decent amount of profits out. That's going to be my strategy for these lower time frame trades, is to try and actually close out a decent amount of them at my full target. But this is also a very important zone, even though we did technically get above my resistance zone. I think just this general area is going to be heavy resistance for us. We're still not really reclaiming the low end of this range, so I mean there is potential that we really dump from here. So maybe I want to leave 25% of it open or 1/3 of it open, especially since I do have some big long trades that I would like to hedge against. So it's a little while later. We have seen price dump a little bit. This was a little bit of a scary one because after I entered, we came back up towards VWAP again. Do you mind, Mr. Kitty Cat? Rubbing his face on the mic. That probably didn't sound good. We are so far continuing to the downside. We, after I entered, came up, got a little test of VWAP. There was actually a second confirmation there. I could have added to the trade either once we got that break or once we back tested the zone. I didn't realize before I entered that there was this zone of resistance, so I in reality was risking more than what I initially thought I was, because I was not going to close the trade until we lost that zone. But luckily we just tapped the low end of it and got rejected. Now at this point I cannot do anything with the trade. I can't TP yet, and I can't de-risk because the structure that I entered on did not really continue again. We have not seen another lower high since this. I'm looking at this 15-minute structure where we got the break overall over here, lower high, lower low, lower high, and now we just come to the downside. So my stop loss has to stay at the same spot. We still have not hit any support zones, so I'm actually kind of hoping we retrace from where we're at, because if we do, I'm more confident that we will continue to the downside to at least hit this first area of support, and at that point I can de-risk my trade. All right, so things are now starting to play out in my favor. We retraced pretty far up, pretty much all the way back to VWAP. Almost hit my stop loss again. This was a stressful over 2 hours. And I actually want to use bar replay and go back because, I was getting pretty psyched out by the way Market Cipher was looking. Things were turning very bullish. We had the 1 hour bottoming out with the lower time frame money flows starting to cross into the green. So as this was progressing, I was starting to diminish in my confidence, but I still decided that I was going to keep my stop loss where it was. I thought my idea was still valid. We didn't bottom out anywhere significant, and I thought that this zone should hold for at least a move back down to this support. My only fear was that we were gonna, maybe stop hunt before coming down, but we did not. We just hit my target, at least my first support zone. Not an area where I'm really looking to TP though. We're only at, just above a 2-to-1. Also, since we retraced so far, I can't really de-risk this trade all that much. The most I can do is move it from this high to this high, which does not do all that much. But I will do that anyway. I'll take any de-risk I can. We are still in, an uptrend locally here. So, it does make sense to make a higher low, even though based on, where we topped out and the way we topped out up here, I think there's a chance we may become lower. We are quickly approaching the 3-to-1 zone. I'm up about 15 bucks right now. But, if we're just going to smash right through this support, I don't see why we wouldn't come down to the next one. So, I would like to hold out on taking profits till at least down here, if possible. And I may end up regretting that if we end up bottoming out right here and getting a retrace. But even if we do, I think, a lower high still makes sense. This, so far is looking like a bearish continuation, a pretty strong continuation. So, I would still expect a lower high if we retrace, unless we get all the way back up here and close a 15-minute candle with, a giant wick as an SFP. Maybe then I would change my thoughts about that. We do unfortunately see some shorts opening and longs closing out during this move to the downside. That is not ideal, and I'd like to check USDT as well. Okay, here we got a bunch of longs opening up after a bunch of shorts opened up though, so that doesn't really help either. It's the game of, all right, who are we going to wreck, the shorts or the longs? We still got 4 minutes until that 15-minute candle closes. Let's hope that we do not make our way all the way back up here in that time. 30-minute closes at the same time as the 15, and we already got a 10-minute close, but not very far down there. So yeah, it really comes down to the next 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I'd like to see what this close looks like. Looks like we're seeing a few more longs open here. I'm seeing CVD move to the upside a little bit there. Okay, there we go. We got a nice close. I had me worried there for a minute, but I am happy with that close. Maybe a 1 hour SFP wouldn't be ideal. This is kind of a 1 hour retracement, but at least having the 30-minute close makes me feel a little better if we get a pullback. But I think I would still prefer if we just continue down from here. I don't really want to pull back. I'd like to just TP on my idea. I've at this point been in it for quite a while. Okay, it's the next morning, and yep, price did dump. Thankfully, I have locked in, a decent amount of profit on my Bitcoin short. So yeah, right now I'm up $17 in realized and about 13 unrealized. So last night I ended up hitting a TP right before I fell asleep at about 1:30 a.m. So I closed half the trade right here at just over 3-to-1. Because I was done staying up and waiting for my target to get hit, we kind of front ran it slightly there, so I decided that was good enough. Unfortunately, shortly after, it seems like we dumped very aggressively, so in this case, it would have been a better idea to not TP and just leave, maybe my stop loss at entry and go to bed and hope for the best. But, that's a risky thing. I've done that many times and it's backfired many times. So, I'm not too upset that I took profits here. I then woke up just before this massive candle, at 8:25, I guess, exactly right before that candle, because I took profits here and then we immediately shot up. I closed 25% here, and I just took out a little bit more profits down here. I think 25% of whatever was remaining. So yeah, I hit 3 TPs so far. I also entered this ETH trade. This is not for this challenge though. This is on a separate trading account, but also, I was able to TP on this just before this massive pump, which, given the fact that we immediately dumped right after, kind of sucks. But, when I woke up and I saw that we were doing this, I was glad that I woke up right here to take some profits. And at this point, I still think we may have some more dumping to do, at least coming down to this low. I don't see why we would break through all of that support just to kind of bottom out in the middle of nowhere. That low is going to be my target. I'm viewing this as a range low, clearly sideways price action. So maybe there's even a long trade from that area. My next idea is taking out this low. We are grabbing some liquidity over here, but that's not seeming all that important unless there is some kind of support zone right below it, which there actually might be. And yeah, I'd say there is. I guess we are actually hitting something significant right now. Unfortunately, this kind of whiplash move, this whiplash price action does not give very good confirmations unless we retrace, put in a lower low, and then break above this lower high. It could turn into a confirmation. It's not looking very promising the way we came down here. But I do kind of like this formation. I think if we take out that low, break above this high significantly and back test, that is looking like a decent long idea there. So we did put in another local lower low. I think, I still will entertain this idea if it looks good enough. But my issue with it is, at best, you can call this 2-minute market structure. And I almost want to call it 1 minute just because there's, more structure on the 1 minute to go off of. This was a 1 minute retracement. That, I guess, is good enough. It at least looks like a retracement as well as this. So, I'm more keen to call this 1 minute structure. The thing that is kind of making me, lean more towards the longs is the divergences that we got on the 12 minute, on the 24 minute right now. This move created some very nice divergences, although I would prefer if we could maybe go down a little bit lower and take out this low. I do think that is a better long idea, but, I may have to go with the more scalp approach here. Looks like we had a lot of longs open up in this area. Prior to that, we saw shorts opening over here, but doesn't look like a lot of those longs closed out. Looks like most of them are still open. In fact, longs were really opening up starting right here over. So yeah, maybe a move a little bit lower to stop out those longs would be, some nice confluence. I'd really like to see, a fat purple candle here with OI taking out a lot of those longs. So we just got that move to the downside. And, I have a choice to make. Do I go with a reaction and just, enter after maybe an SFP candle closes? I'm kind of thinking yes, because I got my short that I want to hedge against. And right now, lower highs are all the way up here. I don't feel great about it. Maybe I'd rather even enter a little higher and have a really tight stop below this low. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great about that reaction, just given how aggressive this move to the downside was at a minute and 40 until the 5-minute candle closes. And I mean, we're already getting a decent reaction. I would kind of, maybe like to see some shorts open here as well. That would maybe tempt me too long a little bit more. So I did decide to enter this just before we got that last dump. I did base my stop loss off of a $716 move. We go below that, I will get stopped out for a $5.5 loss. I think it was worth it for a hedge, though. I mean, the divergences that we see on the midterm time frames are very obvious. The 12-minute, the 24-minute, 6-minute also currently has divergences, although that VWAP sketched me out a bit. We did see longs get stopped out. However, I wish we saw some more. So, that may be what ends up causing this to go against me. But, it's worth it for the hedge. We did form some local divergences, at least with momentum as we made the last lower lows. Money flow on the very low time frames looking sus. 12-minute and 24-minute money flow. Yeah, there's some divergences there, but it's not looking the best. But this could be the beginning of, an overall rotation back to the upside for money flow. Okay, it is really coming down to the wire here with this long. It's not going well, given the fact that we've kind of continued structure lower than the range low. If we start breaking above this lower high, there may even be, separate long trades to be had. So, if I end up closing this one out, but we just kind of continue trending lower, like if I get stopped out here, I'll probably look for a re-entry if we end up reclaiming the range again with structure. But hopefully I don't need to do that. Hopefully I can, maybe even just open a new trade while this one's still open, kind of double down on this idea if there's further confirmations. Okay, so, I'm sitting here thinking things are going good, and I mean, they may be still, but as, we are approaching the point where we may be putting in another lower high, I click over to order flow to see that someone just fat fingered a big long position, and that is a little frightening, and it may actually even make me want to close out my long and either A, look to enter lower after that guy closes out his long, or wait for better confirmations. I think if we maybe start losing this wick low that we just put in, I might just close out my long. But maybe this guy's onto something. Maybe they'll let him stay in his position. We will see. If we get we'll say a 2 or 3 minute close above this high, I'll feel a lot better about this long position. And I think what would certainly make me close my long would be if we SFP'd this high and then immediately came back down and lost this low. At that point, I'm definitely out. I'll probably be taking, I don't know, maybe a $2 loss at that point. But yeah, if that happens, I think we're probably going to try and hunt this guy. Maybe seeing a few more top longers, but nothing too crazy. Let's have a quick look through Market Cipher again. We do have that 12-minute green dot now. 24 minutes getting close. VWAP isn't looking too terrible. We started having some outward curve here, but that kind of corrected. The 2-minute money flow, 1-minute money flow is starting to look pretty decent as well. But there we go. We are getting a bit of a reaction following that local SFP. And let's see, I'm already at a $2 loss. Yeah, I'm willing to re-enter later. I'm not worried about, losing that entry point. I'm fine with entering higher after better confirmations, so I'll go ahead and realize that loss of probably like 250 after fees. And I'm probably going to look to TP a bit more on this short. Hopefully, though, I'm able to do that a bit lower. There is a chance that I get baited out here. That's the risk I'm taking. And we still have not seen those longs get wrecked. We're starting to see some shorts open, but that does not mean too much unless we also see those longs get stopped out. At least that's my opinion. I may want to take some profits now on my short just to be safe, despite us not taking out the longs from before and the longs that are opening up just now. But the longs that are opening up just now may change my mind on that. I mean, I really think we're going to come lower, so I'm actually going to hold off on taking profits on my shorts, never mind. So we did just put in a lower low, and I did take profit on my short. I closed 25% of what was left, so now I got 21 realized, still 14 in unrealized, and I did not take a long yet. I think I would prefer to go for the safer approach and wait for us to break this range to the upside and break back into the larger range, because we are starting to see things on Market Cipher not look the best, and I'm not really in the mood for a risky trade, so I think I'd rather just wait for a better setup. Even though we did see some longs get stopped out, I don't really trust that as my only confirmation, and plus there's still a lot more longs open. With the OI start all the way down here when most of those longs open, so we could see this drop a lot more, and we could see another move to the downside. Well, we got what I wanted, but rethinking it over, I don't think I want to enter a long right now. I keep going back to I would rather see this range break to the upside before I look for longs. Anything prior to that I think is risky. I don't really want to enter just because we're retracing to this area. After second thought, there is a higher time frame uptrend with a higher time frame lower high that we just basically came up to SFP over here. We've been consistently coming for these range lows, so who's to say we don't do it again? And we still have not seen a lot of these longs close out, so we could just keep doing that until those longs get wrecked. That's kind of my thinking, and I think I'll reevaluate if we break this range to the upside. I think if we do that, that's actually a really bullish thing. At that point, we will still be below VWAP, so we'll likely spend some time, or there will be some kind of retracement prior to us actually being able to get above VWAP. And I think I'll be able to find some long trades here or here, so I'm not too worried about missing it. All right, it's now Monday morning, and let's go over everything that happened with these trades. So I am still in this short. I did take some more profits out as we continued trending a little bit lower. I think I hit one right here, but I'll be able to check in a minute. And I also entered a new trade last night. I entered a long trade. I did not record anything for it because it was very late. Basically, I just entered this and then immediately went to bed. But we saw, first off, a range form following this low being put in. We had some 15-minute market structure. We started off barely being able to get above that lower high. Then we just kind of SFP'd the range highs. So I wasn't counting any of those as breaks of the downtrend. But once we got this strong close above the range high, I considered that the break of structure. So we got a bullish break, but ultimately we ended up creating a larger range where we eventually came back down to the low, and I got confirmations to long. This one was a pretty simple entry. I just entered upon the 15-minute break of structure as long as the reclaim of UOP. We retraced a little bit. I entered, a little bit after we retraced. I wanted to get a lower entry, but we were kind of hovering around this area just above VWAP, so I just decided to enter there. I was able to hit a TP at about a 2.7 to 1, something like that. Basically, I entered this at 2 a.m. and I set my stop loss and I set my TP for 1/3 of the trade. This was a 1% risk, so I risked like 5.6 bucks. I don't know exactly how much my accounts are at, but I know they are up since my last short was pretty profitable. So yeah, let me go over where we're at with those two trades. So this is my long. I locked in, just about the 1% that I risked, a little bit more. I actually closed out like 36% of my trade instead of 33, so that's why there's a little bit extra there. And this is my short trade. I don't know how much I was up last time I checked in, but right now I'm up 25 bucks realized and about 8 unrealized. And I'm not quite sure if I want to close out the remainder of my short. I kind of just want to keep it open just because every other trade that I'm in is long. But if there's, a clear enough reason for me to close it, like if we get a really strong break and then, a clear back test of this range with some kind of bullishness here, maybe at this point I will close out my short fully and just, realize whatever I got remaining in it, the 7-8 bucks that are left. I think I will mark out this 1 hour order block. That is certainly going to be resistance for us, and that's just above where we just put in this most recent highs. If we get kind of a weak move above this higher high here, then maybe I end up TPing a little bit more here. Maybe I close out 25%. We did get a lower time frame market structure break here, but this ended up turning into a higher time frame market structure move. So based on this structure, we still have not broken bullish yet. Really, I think breaking above this lower high at 109,430 is going to be really significant. Could actually end up being the confirmation that leads to the range rotation, or at least the beginning of it. Who knows if we get a full rotation, but I would probably at least expect to move up to value area low or a significant high like this. And then if we can get past that, then we look at the next areas of resistance. All right, it is now Wednesday morning, and I am going to end off this video here because it's already very long. So I will quickly run over the results of everything. I am currently out of both this long and now this short. This just got stopped out at entry. And obviously the long also got stopped out at entry over here. We got a very deep retrace prior to us continuing to the upside. So the long was plus about 6 bucks. Again, this does not account for fees. For whatever reason, Weeks does not include the fees in realized P&L, so maybe minus 40 cents from that. And I did not take any more profits out of my short, so I locked in about the 25 that I had realized. And now, sorry for the flashbang, but I need to update the spreadsheet. Antarctic is at 193.68, and Weeks is at 369.28. Looks like we're going to be up about $24. So there we go. Update that. Update the chart as well. And we have officially made a new all-time high for the challenge. Not by much. We were at 556 at one point, so yeah, we're about $7 higher, but not bad. And yeah, as I said, I really like this episode. I thought it included a lot of good value in it, and I hope you enjoyed as well. So, if you did, consider leaving a like, subscribing, and leaving a comment. I appreciate the support on my channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.